Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the BeliefCast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swap and Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. The visionaries behind Thread wallets. These wallets redefine style and functionality. Dave Philippi from Micro Plus, pushing the boundaries of nanotechnology and scientific research to bring us cutting-edge supplements for optimal health. The Ralphs and the Debenhams, creators of Mori Nutrition and Calm. Because if you're struggling with sleep, feeling stressed, or can't focus, Calm is your answer. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode. And finally, Gab Wireless, letting kids be kids and giving parents the peace of mind they deserve. Right now, Gab is offering $25 off any device to new customers with no contract required. That's $25 off any Gab smartphone or smartwatch. Just go to gab.com/belief. That's where you'll get the best deal. That's gabb.com/belief. Thank you to all these amazing sponsors for supporting the BeliefCast podcast and empowering us to continue spreading positivity and inspiration to the world. Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. And like I always say, thank you for believing in me and for listening week after week. It's been fantastic. As you heard in the beginning, again, thanks to my sponsors and to Paul Cardall for the beautiful music that he lets me use. And again, thanks for tuning in. I'm so grateful for this opportunity once again to be able to interview an amazing individual, Cassidy Merrill. Cassidy, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You guys are going to love Cassidy. She is a very passionate person. She is the founder of Train Insane. You're a mother of 3.
Yep.
Married. Very passionate about fitness, and I think you just ran the Boston Marathon a little while back.
Yeah.
Completed it.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I actually ran my first marathon back in October, the St. George one.
Oh, really?
First time ever.
Oh, awesome.
And it was amazing.
That's
experience.
a great one to do for your first one.
So, and I'm hooked now. I'm like, I'm doing this again.
Oh, yeah. It gets addicting for sure.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So thanks for being here with us today. And again, I really just, admire the way you carry yourself and all the good you're bringing into the world. And we're going to talk about your business here in a minute. But why don't we start off with just tell us a little bit about your childhood and maybe where you grew up.
Okay. So I am the baby. I'm the youngest of 4, and I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, I was born here and raised, or not raised, but born in Utah.
Okay.
When I was 3, we moved to St. Louis, and then I lived there until I came back out here for school. So yeah.
I've been to St. Louis once for a business trip, but it was like, 20 years ago. But I was in there for a day and out at a day, so I don't know too much about it. But.
Yeah. It's honestly a great place to grow up, and I had a great childhood. So what were some of the things you were into as a child? Like what were you? So I was a tomboy. I played sports. I was very I was in the dirt and playing with my brother, and I feel like I would wrestle with my brother. I mean, my brother was beating me up my whole life.
Right.
I have so many, just memories of him just antagonizing me because, that's what brothers do.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I was raised on the softball field basically because, and baseball field. My brother played baseball. And then, I took that on. My earliest memories of T-ball, baseball, coach pitches. that I wouldn't throw the ball to anybody. Like my trust issues started very young, very, very early on.
I'm not throwing you the ball.
I wouldn't throw the ball to anybody because I knew they weren't going to catch it. So I just would chase the person down and tag them out.
I love it.
So that is like, I was always very aggressive as a child, very aggressive, very, just athletics, loved sports. And so, and I loved all things. I mean, I did pretty much everything. I was a cheerleader too. Like it was like, I taught myself how to tumble.
Oh, wow.
And my mom wouldn't put me in dance class. She wouldn't put me in because I was already doing too many other sports.
Yeah,
so I just taught myself. And so I was doing lots of stuff. And then I played softball at UVU eventually. So
right on.
Yeah.
Great school. UVU is amazing.
Yeah.
I played a little basketball back in the day there when it was a junior college back in Utah Valley Community College.
Yes. Yeah.
But UVU is a great school. My kids have gone there and stuff. So it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you played softball there, huh?
Yeah.
What position?
So I played just 1 year.
Okay.
And it was hard. It was a transition. It was when they were transitioning from a junior college to BUVU. So it was a little bit of stickiness going on. The coaches were just kind of, I only did 1 year because it was a little bit chaotic. And I was feeling like I was missing out on, just the college experience. I didn't really have friends beside, and I was working on Sundays to try to, because I couldn't work during the week.
So you're busy.
So I'd work at the gas station on a Sunday, and so that I could do it. So it was a lot.
Sure. What position did you play?
So I played third base my whole career. And then when I came to UVU, I played left field. So
yeah, that says a lot about you playing third base, because third base is not an easy position, because when someone hits the ball, third base is, it's coming fast.
You got to be up there.
Yeah.
You got to be up there close, because with softball, it's like they're bunting there,
So were you a pretty confident kid growing up? Do you feel like you had a lot of confidence?
Yes, I feel like I was very confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my husband and I talk about this a lot, because I feel like it's something that I actually feel like I struggle more with it now than I did as a child, and even as I got married, like very confident.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I deal with a lot of clients who are struggling with addictions and mental health issues. And I always refer back to when we were these little kids, where we loved everyone, we loved ourselves, we had faith as big as the universe.
Yes.
And somewhere along the way, at times, we forget that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, isn't that interesting that we go through that? Because I would never have guessed that from you.
Yeah.
Because what you do for a living and stuff like that, and just watching you excel in those fitness classes and what you help other people achieve. You would never guess that you struggle with that.
Yeah.
At times,
for sure.
Right? I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Right? And I think it's experiences that I actually have been through, like after being married, and experiences I've been through, like in my later, in my adult life. Like I feel like those are actually what has kind of, hurt my self-confidence, I think, more.
Yeah.
And made me a little bit insecure. Whereas I'm like, I never used to be like this. Why am I, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think experiences play a role in that, and trauma that has happened. And
sure.
So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about, your growing up. Your parents had you in a lot of things. You were doing, you're teaching yourself stuff. You're wrestling with your brother.
Yeah.
You're doing all these things. What were some of the bigger lessons that maybe you could point out that you learned from your parents?
I think that mostly both of my parents worked.
Okay.
Very hardworking. And they were very big on not quitting. Like if if you're on a team and you're like, you finish it out, working hard, and just, there's not an option. There's no other option. Like you can't just, honestly, they taught me that they said, if you're not playing a sport, you have a job. There was no option. Like, so I had to get a job. I had to, and always work hard. So they really pushed me in that aspect. I'm really grateful that they made me work hard, and because it did help me, I feel like, later on in life,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I love that you said that, because I think we take that for granted, like just the skill of hard work.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like you can really do anything if you just have that desire to work hard.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah, fair. I've had some I worked at car wash. In college, I worked at Supersonic car wash, washing cars on Christmas Eve, like drying cars, like, like stuff like that I think made me who I am today, and kind of like built that work ethic within me.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, I again go back to the clients I deal with. One of the biggest things I see that they wrestle with is they're I don't know if it's they're afraid to work hard or they just don't want to. I mean, it might be a combination of both.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you'll just put in the work, you're going to get a result that you say you want. So let's just put in the work, right?
Right.
And it's funny that I think sometimes we hear some things and then we just go about our daily routine and we don't put in the effort that we need.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So you go on, you're playing sports, you play at UVU, kind of take us from there. So where did you get involved with, like, I want to do fitness, and, you've got this amazing business that you're doing?
Yeah. It was after I stopped playing softball that year. Like, I felt like lost. I was like, wait, this was my whole life, my whole identity. Like, what do I do now? So I started running, and I was actually a pretty like good runner. Like, when in softball, when the coaches would have us run, like, my coach was like, you need to be in cross country. Like, forget this.
Right.
Like, so I took on running, and that got, that fed me and what I wanted and needed. And then I started going to the gym, and then I would go to the gym and I would run on the treadmill because that's all I knew how to do.
Yeah.
And I go pick up some weights, and I lift like a couple of weights, but it was like, oh, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Right.
So that was kind of, and then I really just started, I saw a class going on at the gym, and I was like, oh, I should go do a class. And it took me a while to find a class I liked because I felt like I wasn't getting the same high that I would get from running. So it kind of was this, I was trying to find that perfect combination of feeling like I did when I ran, like the runner's high, but also incorporating strength and weights and, so that ultimately led me to finding fitness classes that I was like, oh, this is like exactly what I want to do. And it was like incorporating HIIT with strength training. So.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I saw one of your posts where you post a picture of pre kind of fitness, the weights.
Yeah.
And you know which one I'm referring to?
Yes,
where you had this belief that, maybe like our love handles were genetic.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because that really struck me, because I kind of feel that way too. I'm like, man, this must be genetic. I can't get rid of these.
For sure. Yeah.
Because you were running.
Yeah.
But maybe you weren't seeing the results with what you wanted to see in your body.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's just it, is I felt like I needed strength, and I felt like I needed, just to have more tone in my body.
Right.
And then also with running, you don't want to get injured, and I was seeing injuries and things like that. And so the cross training and that strength component is very important. So I knew that was important, but then I started seeing a difference in my body.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like, whoa, like, oh, so, it does help to lift weights and, be strong. So
did you see that helping your running too? Like, did it help you with when you're out there running?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like I was doing a lot of HIIT too. If you've heard of Insanity, that's where I started. Like, that was my very first class I ever taught. Yeah. Yeah. I was one of the first instructors to get certified in Insanity. So I went to like their first training in Vegas. So, and I kind of brought it to Utah and to Vasa and the gyms here. And that was my introduction into the fitness, community here was Insanity classes. So that's where I kind of started, but then I wanted strength too, so I kind of mixed them. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So obviously that led to doing what you're doing now. You own two what do you say? How do you say it?
So I own one location now. Did have two.
Used to have
and we
two.
closed down the Arizona one,
Gotcha.
But now I have. That's a different story for another day. But
okay. So you have a it's called Train Insane.
Train Insane, yeah.
And again, kind of a combination of both. Tell us about how you came up with this idea of finally doing your own business. So
it actually was never my plan to do it.
Okay.
It's interesting because a lot of times I'm like, why am I here? And I know there's a reason, and that God placed certain people and what led me to Train Insane, to be honest, because I was a happy stay-at-home wife who was just doing aerobics classes, and I did get my degree in community health, and so I did teach for a couple of years at a high school, but after I had my first baby, I was like, oh, I'm good. I never had any desire to start a business. It was never in the plan. So it happened for a reason. The right people, the right things all led me to where I was sitting there with these people wanting a class in this building. And I was like, how did I get here?
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, just to start a business for anyone or anything is a very challenging and very vulnerable thing to go do, right?
Yeah.
So you put yourself out there. It's interesting. Do you see, you know, obviously where you're at now, when you look back at your childhood and the hard work you learned and just the, you know, learning things on your own and putting yourself there, how that's played a part in being successful in what you're doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's 100% played a huge role and yeah, there's many times that I've wanted to give up that have, you know, because at the beginning it was like exploded and, you know, but I've also been in business for 7 years, kind of like you with the podcast.
Yeah,
and
right on.
Going on 8 years in this October.
That's awesome.
And so obviously I have had a lot of ups and downs and just not giving up. I mean, I yell at my class all the time. I'm like, we're not quitters. If we were quitters, I would have quit a long time ago just because it's really hard and challenging. And, but I'm grateful for my parents and what they instilled in me and taught me to work hard and never give up, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
That's so cool. You know, I know this is a loaded question because there's many lessons that you've learned as, you know, starting your own business. What are some of the lessons that you feel like you've learned, even some of the tough ones that you maybe weren't expecting? I know that's a big question. But
so it's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think being aware of every aspect of your business first and foremost before it's handed off to somebody else. Because I think I just was like, oh, I don't know, like someone else takes care of that, but I wasn't in it. Yeah. And I think it's so important to be in it and not, you know, just aloof to what's going on. And it's like you trust people, but to an extent, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I maybe put too much trust in others and, you know, and I, you know, wasn't aware of things or whatever. So
yeah, like almost assuming it's being done, but maybe you find out later maybe it wasn't being done or done the way it should have been.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I hear that a lot of people who have started business because I'm kind of the same way. You know, I know what I'm good at.
Yeah.
But like behind the scene business stuff, I don't know. I've had to kind of learn it on my own.
Right. Yeah. Right? And it's kind of this thing where with business, they tell you, you know, you listen to all these business podcast or minded people who are like, you need to outsource the things that you know, can't do. So I very early on was like, I'm outsourcing this, you know, like everything. So I can be in the gym teaching the classes and, you know, and so, but in all reality, that wasn't just as easy as it seems, you know,
Sure.
Especially when I have no education on business. Like, you know, I went into it very blind. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't graduate in business.
Yeah.
So it was it's been a learning experience all the way through.
I can imagine. How has this played a part, like just, you know, being married and having kids and like even having your kids watch you do this? How do you think that's affected them?
It's good and bad. Like I feel like there's pros and cons, obviously, you know, and I have a lot of mom guilt when I feel like I'm putting too much into. I mean, there's this word of balance, right? Like people talk about having balance, and I'm like, I don't think that really exists.
Yeah.
If I've learned another thing from my business, it's that. I'm like, that is such a made up thing.
Right.
I don't think that exists because, I mean, if I really truly had balance and I was like, okay, this fire is going up at my business right now, but I need to make sure that I'm sitting here with my child right now reading a book. Like, it's just, that's not realistic, right? Like, so I feel like they've, you know, and my daughter has made some comments, you know, like, I wish you were just a stay-at-home mom, you know, things like that. Sure. And that kind of does hit me like a little bit, you know, but then my other daughter will say things like she's like, you can't close down Train Insane if I ever mention the, you know,
like, don't
she's
do
like,
that.
no, you can't do that. Like, you know, and so you can tell that she's very proud of me and of Train Insane and what it stands for ultimately, because it's teaching her to be strong and to not give up and to, you know, so many things that are so important for girls.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up how that balance thing it really is a myth, because I had a guy on my podcast named Scott O'Neill. He wrote a book called Be Where Your Feet Are. Amazing book. And he basically says the same thing you just said. Like this, it's really is just kind of a myth, this balance thing. And his point about, I mean, the title says it all. It's like wherever you're at, just be there.
Yeah.
If you're with your kids, be with your kids. If you're at work, be at work. If you're with a friend, be with your friend. If you're on a date with your husband, be on that date. Don't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
But the balance thing, you're right. Like, to be honest, we spend most of our time, I mean, I spend most of my time here at work.
Yeah.
That's just the facts.
Yeah. It's just,
right?
Yeah.
You know, and then, so I try and be really present when I am with my family and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was appropriate with what you said.
Mm-hmm.
I know, does your husband also, does he do this as well, or is he just...
No, he owns his own business. So,
okay.
So yeah, he's a financial advisor. And
okay.
So he does his own thing and I do my own thing.
Gotcha.
And, you know, we'll talk and he'll give me some advice, or, you know, he'll be a listening ear for me, but he tries to not get involved. And I mean, I think it's good because we usually will fight if we do talk about it.
Right, I know.
Or if he tells me, you should do this, I'm like, just stay in your lane.
Yeah, you stay over there. I'll stay over
there.
Here.
Yeah.
You want to come do a class?
But
he'll
he'll support me.
Sure.
He's very supportive.
Absolutely.
And he'll come. And if I'm like, I really need you to come to this class, you know, he will. So, yeah.
So for those who are listening and they don't know anything about Train Insane, what would someone expect if they came to one of your classes, and what would be the experience for them?
So I, very early on in attending other classes, and I went to a CrossFit gym one time, and this was before I started Train Insane. So this kind of helps. It's an interlude to what Train Insane is.
Yeah.
But I went to a CrossFit gym one time, and I had never been to CrossFit before. Like, I was a runner, and but people were like, oh, you got to come try this. Like, you would kill it. So I went to this CrossFit gym, and I walked in, and there was nobody at the front desk. Like, there's nobody at the front desk. There's these girls sitting in a circle talking, and then... So I walk in, I'm like, so what do I do? Like, I was just like, and I had my baby with me because they had a kids club, but it was just this room. No one was really in there. So I was just like, what is happening? You know, like, I was like, okay, there was no guidance or, you know, introduction or anything like that. And, I felt like I was being sized up the whole time, honestly. Like, they were watching to see how much I could lift and what can you do.
And all your moves.
Yes. And they probably had heard from, you know, about me or followed me or something, who knows.
Right.
But I felt like it was very competitive and I do not like that energy. Right. I was very turned off by it. And so when I started Train Insane, that experience stayed with me, and I was like, I do not want anybody to feel that way when they walk through the door at Train Insane.
Love that.
And so my goal was, to be honest, to make every person feel included, to make them feel like they're a part of us when they instantly walk through the door, that we know every person's name, call them by name. And it's very important for my trainers to do that as well, you know. And so that's really what you can expect, is to feel I think people are very intimidated because of what they see online, or, you know, it's called Train Insane. Like, what?
Like,
I don't expect them to think any different.
That sounds intense, you know, right?
Yes. I feel like it sounds very intense, but I think, so they come, it's very welcoming. That's my goal. And to feel very included, and we do stations where they're with a partner or whatever. And I try to partner them up with somebody who is kind of a leader of the class, who's a leader and strong and can kind of like be there for them, you know? And, but that's kind of what you can expect. And then obviously it's a challenging workout, but something that I feel like anybody can do. We give modifications, all the things to help that person accomplish it, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. And I know you really love helping people develop a positive self-worth.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that plays, like, how do you do that with someone who comes in and it's like, oh man, I'm intimidated?
Yeah. It's been very cool to see transformations, not with weight loss, but with just their like overall, like how they carry themselves. Yeah. To be honest, like I have seen some incredible transformations with that, like with the confidence more than anything else, and self-worth, I feel like, because they're coming into something that they don't think they can do.
Right.
And then they do something hard, and just accomplishing something hard then gives them, all of a sudden they roll their shoulders back. All of a sudden their head's lifted, and you just see this brightness about them. And it's incredible. It's so cool to see because it's just doing something hard and challenging to make you believe in yourself and be like, I can do this. I am strong. Yeah. So
I love that. Yeah. That's, I mentioned to you, I ran my first marathon back in October, and, I did fairly well for my first one, I would say. I guess I finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sense of accomplishment, it was like I had this feeling of, man, I can really do hard things.
Yes, it's empowering.
It really is.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe from the outside it wouldn't have looked so glamorous, but for what happened internally inside of me, I was like, wow.
You feel like absolute crap when you finish a marathon, but not at the same time.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, your body's going, what did you just put me through?
Yeah, it's pissed, but
it is mad.
Your mental and your emotional is like on a high. Yeah, it's like a next
really
level.
Is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because as I was training for it, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm probably just going to do one and done. Just do one just to say I did it. So I do it. And then I was like, the next day I'm like, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hooked on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
you have I've done a lot of looking at your website. It's a beautiful website, by the way. And it looks like you have a really powerful team. Talk about your team and these women that you work with and what you love about them and just what they bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing is all of my instructors, I guess you call it, I haven't been like, I'm hiring, send in your resume.
Right.
I've handpicked them from my classes basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I've trained them from from being a student to now being an instructor and a coach. So they've learned everything from being at Train Insane.
Okay.
And from being, so they're not coming with beliefs from somewhere else or another gym or how they do it. It's like, this is Train Insane how we do it. And this is, and so they're built from Train Insane, okay. So, but mental toughness obviously is a huge part of it. Yeah. And you see that when they're working out, you can tell the hard workers. You can see, okay, you're a hard worker. You can see who's consistent. Okay, I know you're going to show up for your shifts, because you are here very consistently. You're here every Tuesday, Thursday without a beat, you don't unless
miss.
You're out of town.
Yeah, right.
So it's those kind of people that I see, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see you, being a trainer and being a part of this team and, holding those values and, really that's it, the energy too is important. I feel like what kind of energy are they putting off? Are they cheering on people next to them? Are they inclusive? And being inclusive is huge. If they're cliquey, I'm like, probably not, So are they somebody who, when someone walks through the door, are they going up and welcoming them and greeting them and bringing them in? Or is it, you know what I mean? So all of my team is that person, I feel like. That. And so it's what Train Insane is.
Yeah. So making everyone feel like you're connected to this community that you're walking into, no matter what your level of fitness may be.
Yes.
We're going to make you feel like you belong.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. I love that because, I've done some classes before at some places and I have felt like I am just this outsider. No one said hi. Yeah. No one's greeted me.
And it's awkward.
And I have no idea what we're doing. And I'm like, what are we? Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. And, and you kind of leave there going, I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
It didn't feel, again, I think that connected piece. I've watched a lot of your videos and stuff, and I do see that energy that you guys bring. And it looks like everyone's just having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love what you said. You're not so much... Yeah, the transformation of weight loss is great, but the better transformation is what's going on internally.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure when you see that, it's like, okay, this is why I do what I do.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
So, you've got this business, it's thriving, it's doing well. What do you do to keep yourself, besides the fitness piece? And I know that's a very important part of your life, obviously.
Right.
But for our listeners, what else do you do to kind of keep yourself with a good mindset and maybe, if you're having a bad day, how do you handle those kind of things?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, it's been really hard. I mean, if I were to just be like, I do this and I do that, like I don't half the time. I'm trying to just swim and tread and get through it, right? Like every day I'm like, okay, I can get through today, like it's just getting through the day. But I feel like it's very, very important who you surround yourself with. If you've heard, like, you are the average of the 5 people you're around the most, right? And so if I'm around negativity, or if I'm around people who are feeling bad for themselves and who are not taking any responsibility, then I can see myself doing that, right? And so I've learned over time, I'm like, oh, I've got to like distance myself, or oh, I've got to like change this environment around me. Or it can go with too, like, even if I'm around girls who are talking about the way they look all the time, and I'm so fat, and like, that's, I can't, my energy is so important, because I have to give, and I'm running a business, and I have a family and a husband who needs me, that I have to be very selective on where I'm putting my energy and who I'm around.
Makes a lot of sense.
So that is one thing that I try to do. I'm not perfect at it, and a lot of times I'll think somebody is somebody who they're not, or there's learning through that, but I think it's that. And then, I mean, honestly, I'm not good at taking time for myself. I'm not. Like, I suck.
Well, like, thanks for the honesty.
Exactly. I'm the most honest person you'll probably meet. It's almost it's like my biggest strength and also my biggest weakness, but I struggle with finding that time, because I think it is important for your mental health to set boundaries, to take the time for you. And I've struggled with that while running a business, because I'm also, it's about the business all the time, and keeping it going, and how can I make the business better? And so I oftentimes forget about myself, because I'm so busy trying to just keep it all going. So I definitely can work on.
Wow. Again, thanks for being honest. I love that, because it just makes you realize you're a real person. Who is striving to do some great things in life, but at the same time you have your struggles, you have you're normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
you're just a normal person trying to do the right things.
Yeah.
So when you're away from the fitness and all that stuff, what are you and your family like doing? What's some of the stuff you guys get involved with?
So we love traveling, and that's one thing I was going to say is also my husband and I have found that if we don't take our family and go away for, once a year, or even the two of us going away, we realize we actually like each other. We're like, oh, we do. We do like each other. It's just this chaotic life that we live in, and the expectations and the almost, and I'm sure we're all guilty of this, expectations we put on ourselves because of, well, what are people going to think if I let my business fall apart, or if it's dirty in my gym and I don't clean, or, you have all those things that you feel responsible for. And, so it's so important to take yourself out of it. Yeah. And we love to travel. We love to just go to Mexico and do nothing. We just sit by the pool and absolutely do nothing.
Do nothing. Yeah.
So we love to do that. We love to ski. Our family all loves to ski.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what else do I thought my kids are very, very busy. They're at those ages where they're in their sports for 4 or 5 hours a night after school. Right. So we don't see each other till
kind of like your childhood, nighttime. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're all busy doing stuff. And again, if you think about it on paper, if we wrote down all the things our families are doing, it's like, how are we doing all this? Yeah. Like, how in the heck?
It's insane. I know.
Kids are in school all day, and then they're, all night they're practicing this, and this. But I guess that's just our lives, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it goes back to doing our best to just try to be in the moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I know. Sometimes I'm like, what is this, Kate? Like, what is this life? If we're running around constantly and not really enjoying, I feel like it's not worth that's not worth living, right? Yeah. So it's so important to enjoy it. And I do feel like I will take the time to be like, hey, am I enjoying this? Yes. Am I liking this? And just having that conversation with yourself to know and to be honest with yourself. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I love that. Well said.
Thanks.
I'm going to ask you a really vulnerable question here.
Okay.
What do you love most about you?
I would say, like I said, my strength is also my biggest weakness. So I would say my honesty.
Okay.
And I guess just not really caring what people think.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I think I'm pretty good at that. Like,
good. Yeah.
So, I do what I want to do because I want to do it. And, you know, not to say that I'm perfect and do it all the time, but most of the time I'm true to myself. So I feel like being true to myself and honesty is probably what I love most about myself.
Yeah. Hey, I can't argue with that. That's fantastic. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, not worrying and caring what other people think. And I think most of us struggle with that on some level, right? We're like, and I think, you know, it's something that I've been learning over the years, just trying to just like, okay, that person may not like me for whatever reason. Stuff like that back, you know, years ago would just devastate me.
Yeah.
And thankfully it's not so much that now anymore. I'm like, you know what? Hey, I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin. Is that,
I love that.
Because you seem very comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, I am. And I feel like I always have been. I've always just been like, no, this is what I feel. This is what I think. Like, I mean, during COVID, I was like, no, like I don't believe this. Like, and I just stuck to my guns. Like I didn't change no matter what anybody else said. I stuck to how I felt.
Yeah.
And so, it's really important. But I feel like what kind of you said is I'm kind of the opposite of you, where the more, and I don't know if it's like the more I have to lose because I have a business and I have these employees who, if I say something political on my Instagram, or if I say something that doesn't align with what I should be saying, then all these other people are affected by it. Yeah. Right. And
There's
that's a challenge for me. Like, I feel like I can't sometimes be my true authentic self because of what I have to lose. Right. Like, or how it's affecting other people. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so I think it's almost like that has been a challenge for me.
Yeah.
In where, you know, I almost feel myself being muffled, like muted almost. You know what I mean? Like where I can't.
Yeah, you gotta be cautious with.
Yeah, because I have a business and a brand and people who are working for me, and how are they, you know, how is it going to affect them? And people treat them differently if they know they're tied to Train Insane, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, but again, I think what you do and how you're doing it, you do a fantastic job.
Thanks.
I think people obviously who know you well, and especially your training family, if you will, probably just think the world of you, and you guys seem like you have just a blast.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so important. I think it's important to work hard, but you also have to enjoy what you're doing, or you're not going to keep showing up.
Yeah.
So it's very important to like make sure at Train Insane, I'm always like, listen, like, we want to push people, and yes, we want to like be serious at times, but we also have to have fun and make it enjoyable too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I got a quote here I want to read to you.
Okay.
And it really kind of reminds me of you, honestly, and just would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay.
It's kind of a long quote, but let me just read it and tell me what you think. Okay. It goes like this. Everybody says discipline is so important, but they never want to tell you why. I'll tell you why discipline is so important. It's the strongest form of self-love. It's ignoring something you want right now for something better later on. Discipline reveals the commitment you have to your dreams, especially on the days where you don't want to. The future you is depending on the current you to keep the promises you made to yourself yesterday.
Love it.
Yeah, I knew you would love it, because I think that it really, I'd just love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the discipline piece? Because you seem like you're a very disciplined person.
Yeah. And I feel like discipline is, it's a powerful word.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of challenges within Train Insane where we work on habits and focusing on one thing at a time, instead of like, I need to eat this many calories, I need to eat this much protein, I need to drink this much water, I need to go to the gym every day. So I think people think that that's discipline. All of it, right? And so I feel like it's a habit thing almost, where it's like, just start with one thing, one thing I remember starting when I wanted to kind of see a difference in my body. I was like, I'm just not going to eat fast food.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like I can have anything else I want, but no
just
McDonald's,
yeah.
no Wendy's, no, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I just stopped with that first, but it made things seem so much more possible after that. Right. Cause I'm like, oh, okay. And as you like get that habit and then you can add another one and then you can add another one. And so slowly you can add those together, you know, and if you mess up, it's okay. You just start again the next day. It's not like I think a lot of people think if they don't show up to the gym one day, they're like, oh, well, I guess I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, like, instead of looking at it like that's just one day of this whole, you know, picture. And
not all is lost because you missed.
Right. Yes. And having grace with yourself and realizing that I'm not perfect, but I'm still going to try. I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to, you know, trying, showing up. And I think that's what creates discipline, you know, is just saying it's okay and giving yourself grace and still trying again, you know?
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Where it says here, I love this part of it where it says, you know, self-discipline it's the strongest form of self-love, right? I notice that when I do keep myself consistent in the things that I know that are good for me, again, not perfect at it either.
Right. Yeah.
But I do feel so much love for myself when I do follow through on those kind of things. Like, man, does that, you notice that?
I have so much to say about this topic because I feel like my husband will always be like when we first met, he's like, what's your biggest pet peeve? And I said, when people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. And I do have trust issues. And I don't know if it's from childhood that like brought me through.
Yeah, you wouldn't throw the ball to him. I got it.
I don't know what happened from the womb till when I was 8, but something happened where I had trust issues, and I still do to this day. But it's one of those things where it's really hard for me to like. So, but I've also seen the correlation with the people who do stick to what they say and their self-confidence. I have seen that. It's incredible that you say that, because the people that are, oh yeah, I'll do that, and then they don't follow through, it's like it does affect their confidence and self-esteem.
No, that's again well said, and I couldn't agree more. I see it a lot again with my clients that I'm dealing with, where they struggle in the discipline area of their life and cultivating that. What are some things someone might do to cultivate more discipline in their life based on what you see, even just with your clientele that comes to Train Insane?
I think the very first step is to figure out your why. Figure out your why first. That is the first step. And it doesn't have to be about fitness. It can be just your existence as a human and your spirit. Like, what is your why? And what is, you know, what are your goals for that why? I think if you don't have a clear, you know, goal set in place, it's really hard for people to do it, to get up and, you know, be disciplined when you don't have a goal or when you don't know what you're working towards. Like, you first have to have that and then say, okay, well, how am I going to get there? And lay out some goals of how you're going to get there first and foremost, you know, then that process happens, you know? Yeah,
I agree with that. What's the quote that goes, he who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how? Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. I agree with that. I think that's a great starting point for all of us. And those listening, if you're struggling with discipline, maybe it's because you don't have a clear-cut why. Maybe you need to dig into that and maybe flush that out a little bit.
Or maybe the why isn't, like, I used to think that my why was to go to the gym was to look better, to be skinnier.
Right, yeah.
And it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get me there. Yeah. But once I found a different why and a different goal, then it did get me there. Yeah. So sometimes it's adjusting your goal, adjusting your why. Like, sure, it's not always going to be the same either. You know, it's going to change. And as you grow and change, it's going to change too.
Yeah, I love that. If someone's listening to your voice right now and they are in a dark place and they're struggling in life and they're listening to you right now, what would you tell that person right now?
Man, I've been there. I'm going to get emotional because I think it's so important for people to realize that no matter what is around you or what you see or what you think of somebody or and you're because, comparison is the thief of joy.
Right.
Right. And a lot of times that's where people get in their darkness is comparing and comparing, getting to a point where I'm not good enough. I'm not like that person, And so I want that person to know, if you're watching, that I have been there. I'm not perfect. There's days I'm still there where I have to but if you saw me every day, you wouldn't know that. Right. Yeah. And so I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm being so emotional.
Don't be sorry. You're great. Thank you.
But I want them to know that they can do hard things. They can do this, and they're not alone.
Yeah.
And as hard as it may seem like in the moment, it will get easier. Yeah. There's a fitness saying that I used to always say that it never gets easier. You get stronger.
Ooh, I like that.
And so it might not feel like it's getting easier, but you are getting stronger, and you can and will do this, Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. No, thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. That was amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm sure anyone who is struggling here are hearing your words, and I can feel them. And thank you. Honestly, this is why I do this. Again, you're doing great things in this world, but it's just so good to see that you're normal. You're one of us.
I am.
Right?
I'm imperfect, and I make a lot of mistakes, but at the end of the day, I keep getting up and I keep going. Right? It's there's a lot of hard things with as a business owner and a woman, being a woman, and I think that there's a lot of times I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
Because I've been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. But, at the end of the day, I still get up every day and still go and still show up.
Yeah.
And you don't know whose life you're impacting by you showing up.
Just showing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You're amazing. Honestly, you're a powerhouse. I love your vulnerability, your honesty. I can
honest to a fault.
Yeah, but I think that's good. It's better than the other way,
My
right?
My husband might not like it when I tell him he's being lazy, and that's why but
yeah. Hey, we need someone in our lives to kind of kick us a little bit, right?
Yep.
No, you're amazing, and I really do love what you're doing. If someone wants to get to know you better and maybe sign up and go to Train Insane, what's the best way for someone to do that?
So the best way is to they can go to my website, traininsaneclasses.com, or just reach out Instagram. I feel like I'm on Instagram. I have TikTok and all the other things, but Instagram more than anything else. So Train Insane with Cass or Train Insane Classes.
Okay. You're making me cry over here.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's awesome. I love the vulnerability, and I'll put those links in the show notes. So when we go live, they can just click right to it and get right to you. So I encourage anyone listening to this to reach out to you, check out what you do.
Please don't be scared. Everyone's so scared. And I'm like, how do I let people see it's really amazing to see the people who come who you would be like, oh, they go? Like, if they can do it, I can do it. I have women who are over 50, multiple. I have so many varieties, shape, sizes. I think what happens is on Instagram, those are the people who are okay with being filmed because they're confident, right? Like, the other people are like, oh, no, don't show me. Don't put me on there. So you're putting these confident people up. Yeah. People are seeing that. Yeah. And I'm always like, hey, I'll talk to somebody who's not feeling confident about it. I'm like, please, you would be helping so many people to show that, hey, if she can do it, I can do it,
Yeah. No, I love that.
Sorry, going off on another tangent while you're trying to close the show.
No, we got another hour.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
The panic,
you're like,
the
no,
fear.
Todd, no. No, that was amazing. It's been great to be sitting here with you today.
Thank
and
you.
Get to know you better. And
thank you.
And I love the way you carry yourself. And
I would love to do this in reverse next time. Let's
do it.
Yeah, I want to talk more about you.
Okay, let's plan it. I would love that.
Okay.
But yeah, I would love for all the listeners to just reach out to Cassidy here and check out what she's doing. If you are in a dark spot, she gave a great response to that. If you find you want to just kind of do something different in your life, training same may be the one thing that kind of breaks you out of that rut you find yourself in. And obviously you can tell that Cassidy's there and she's going to support you and love you for wherever you're at in that journey. So
yeah, you can do hard things and it's going to make you stronger.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here. You're fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I told you today was going to be great, and it was. As always, I'm so thankful for people like Cassidy that come on the show. And we don't just talk about, their business or this or that. They get vulnerable and they bring, tears to our eyes, but joy to our hearts. And so just grateful for people like Cassidy who are willing to come share. So thanks for tuning in. Share this episode with your family and friends. Have them listen to it. If you have a loved one who's struggling with maybe not just fitness goals, but even mental fitness goals, send them this. It'll really kind of open their eyes and it might break them out of the rut they're in. So love you guys. And thanks again, Cassidy, for all you do.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.